Hey, how you doing guys? ZDEyE here. So today I really wanted to talk about something very interesting, and hopefully you are interested about this as well. It's regarding the question we should be asking if you guys would like to see Resident Evil 4 Remake. Now, a lot of people are arguing about this fact that Resident Evil 4 considers to be not that old of a game, even though it did come out, I believe it was in 2005. It is very old, 15 years almost, and yeah, so that's quite a long time since its release. So the question rises, should actually be getting a remake, maybe let's say a year or 2 or 3 years after from 2019, since we already have actually gotten, Resident Evil 2 remake, Resident Evil 3 we're getting it as well, remake by the way, and yet, if we do count it by that way, 2, 3, 4, so wouldn't it make more sense that we would be maybe getting the fourth one as well? Personally, you know what? I think that might actually be kind of interesting. Why? Let me explain. Resident Evil 4, guys, if you might know it, it's one of those games that a lot of people really liked, and it's more of a shooter than anything, and just in case, right, there's good story in it as well. Well, it could be some problems and there's some flaws. I'm not going to do a review, obviously. So this is not about its review, but I just wanted to touch on a few things that had bigger problems. It's the controls of the gunplay that you were capable of using, and that was the big fault on the Resident Evil 4. A lot of people consider it not very good. Like, for example, you can't exactly move at the same time while aiming and shooting your weapons, and that kind of sucks. And I think with all of the implementations since the remakes had, implement all of that into this Resident Evil 4 and make a remake out of it. Sure, so make sense hopefully. It should be a remake, right? It should have a new engine. It should have far better gunplay, and I'm sure it could, because Resident Evil 2 and, well, of course, Resident Evil 3 will have as well. And Resident Evil 2, mind you, there were some slow components to the gunplay, right? But still, it was entertaining as hell to play through. I loved it. But I want to mention that Resident Evil 4, if it does get a remake, oh man, I personally would love that. But, this is quite important for me to say. I do know that in Resident Evil 4 we didn't really have a partner right next to us, right? Resident Evil 2, as you guys may know already, basically there was Leon, right, and there was Claire as well, and you actually had an opportunities of playing through either one or all of them and seeing different types of endings as well. I believe it may be the same thing again for the Resident Evil 3. Obviously, I do not know. Maybe it will be something of a changes on that part. But I do expect it to be something of a similarities to the Resident Evil 2 as how they will go with that sort of the approach. So, Resident Evil 4, as you guys already may know, you literally mainly play as Leon. And, mind you as well, Leon is my favorite protagonist in all of the Resident Evil games. I'm sure a lot of you guys may consider the same thing as well. Resident Evil, Leon, he looks like a goddamn badass with that long sort of not long, but medium haircut. That it's not actually normal for Apocalypse or even comfortable to be using a weaponry as an example, because the hair can get in your eye and stuff, and it could get really badly in the way, so it's actually not ideal to have that kind of haircut. But still, what did the Resident Evil 2 had, right? Leon as Kennedy, right? He made an appearance there as well. He actually, if we would have him back into this Resident Evil 4, I mean, I think that would make sense, right? We'll need to rescue, I believe it's been a while, guys, please don't quote me. I believe it was the president's daughter we had to rescue. And at the end of the day, obviously, we do manage to rescue her. If you did play Resident Evil 4, I guess it's spoilers at this point, right? I guess it is. Come on, 15 years, I'm sure you already might have heard about something regarding Resident Evil 4. And still, if a remake does happen or appear, I'm sure there will be some sudden changes as well. Now, this is quite important, I wish to talk about. Now, what if there's a chance that we may not be getting Resident Evil 4? I actually do see that happening as well. some people actually do not want to even receive a remake of the Resident Evil 4 because they all said, for example, that it's not that outdated of a game. Personally, I think it is outdated game. I really do believe that. If you try to go back and play it right now on your older consoles, the Resident Evil 4, right, that came out in 2015, 2005, sorry. And then you could tell me if it's really outdated or not. The controls especially are extremely outdated. The graphical standpoints, it's not that bad, to be honest with you, but it still does hold up till this day. Well, obviously not to the fullest degree, but still it is an outdated game. And personally, I would not mind seeing a remake of it. I really would love to experience that, to be honest with you. I like Leon S. Kennedy, I like the storyline of that, and I personally think that Resident Evil 4 is the best Resident Evil game of all of them, even including Resident Evil 2. That's seriously, I'm including that as well. I personally believe so, in my personal opinion, of course. But still, if they make a remake, man, that would be pretty damn awesome. So here's the thing I wanted to touch on. Resident Evil 3, Nemesis, whatever, is going to be coming out in 2020. 2021 may seem like there is a chance that nothing will come out for the Resident Evil franchise. I kind of hope so. I don't want them to go yearly on this again, and because I want them to take a break, I want to make sure that they have the best possible quality game, right? That's a fantastic game like Resident Evil 2 does it, and you know, make sure they take a break or take it easier. Don't make sure there's no crunch issues with that. I just want to make sure that they bring out fullest qualities for their games, and so far they managed it. I really do believe that Capcom quite did an incredible job. And so I think that Resident Evil 3 that will come out. After that, I think we'll take a year off, maybe 2 even, who knows, from any Resident Evil games. I'm sure, but the developers are still going to be hard at work making the next Resident Evil. I personally think it might be actually Resident Evil 8. That's very possible, but at this time, that time around, I think we're going to be actually going into a first-person perspective view, and so we will be kind of having that very difficult approaches to the horror-esque game, just like in Resident Evil 7, similarities on that front. And mind you, Resident Evil 7 did very, very well as well. Reviews were fantastic on that, and I personally think, well, personally, I like more aspects of the Resident Evil 2 more than Resident Evil 7. Why? Well, to be honest, I'm a sucker for third-person games. I really like third-person aspects of the games more than first-person. Yeah, that's kind of unfortunate that Cyberpunk is not going to be third person. God damn it. But anyway, I still think that Resident Evil 2, and hopefully, I'm not too sure. Please correct me on this, guys. Maybe you could give me the answer. But is Resident Evil 3 going to be third person or first person? Or there's going to be like a hybrid of both? Or maybe there's going to be a choice you can actually go for. It kind of would make sense for it to be third person, isn't it? Like, if we're going to be going on that front. And still, that's going to be interesting to find out. I'm still going to be looking forward to these Resident Evil games. Personally, I'm not a big fan of them, but I'm definitely going to be taking a closer look at them and seeing what they managed to create or what they managed to put into these aspects of the games, and see what kind of sudden changes they will be able to pull off here as well. Because mind you, the developers are quite incredible of what they strive to achieve, and phenomenally enough, well, it's not really a surprise as well at this point, they do a fantastic job as well. And I really appreciate that, and you can only give them much of respect and a very good reputation as well. And just want to, you know, throw money at them because they did such an amazing job. For example, the collector editions you can actually purchase now. Actually, if you guys did not know, Resident Evil 3 collector edition has been recently confirmed, well, about a week ago or so. Yes, I will leave down links below in the description. I also made a collector's edition of the Resident Evil 3, and if you want to take a look at that. But still, this is going to be exciting. I definitely want to see Resident Evil 4 remake. That's important. Not remaster, but a remake. A true-on remake. Just like the Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, presumably, of course. There are just like those to be remake. And even though they don't actually have a title of a remake, but still, I still want them to go with that sort of approach. Just like Resident Evil 2, and presumably, of course, Resident Evil 3. Just please not the Resident Evil 7 aspect, though. Well, to be honest, mainly what I'm talking about, I just don't want to see as a first-person perspective. I want to see as a third-person perspective. And plus, if they do stay true to their words and going with the remakes, I don't think they're capable. Well, I don't think they would like to go for a first-person, since the game is originally in third-person anyway. So, in third-person, I think is the way to go. And one biggest factor I think it's quite necessary to have in all the Resident Evil games, because I personally think it's still a bit of a problem, just a little bit. In my personal opinion, I still think we need our characters more mobile, meaning they need to be a lot more faster and agile. Does not necessarily mean you need to be an acrobat. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you need to have more free will in your controls and your character. If you try to sprint as a character, you feel extremely weighted and purposely like an artificial weight. I don't want to feel that anymore. I want to have a free will as my own character. If I tell him to go left, he does it. Now, when I tell him to go right, he does that too. When I tell him to walk slowly or at least mid-paced, then you will be able to aim a gun and shoot at the same time, and some way having a steady aim. Because, you know, for example, if we are talking about Resident Evil 3, 4, right? If we're talking about military guys, they can manage that. If you're talking about a civilian, obviously civilians can be extremely difficult to be aiming their weapons at the target or the enemies that they're facing. And obviously while moving or running at that pace anyway. So obviously you're gonna miss a lot of shots. So yes, that's kind of makes sense. Military-esque, I don't think they have much of an excuse. Sure, it would be difficult for them, but they still will be able to manage it for sure. You know, these kind of little sudden changes quite important in my personal opinion, and I would love to see it. And still, Resident Evil 4, Leon S. Kennedy, is an expert more or less going to be at this time. I expect him to be able to pull these things off. But maybe that's the thing what made Resident Evil 4 so special personally to you guys. Maybe that's why you would like to have some kind of restrictions on that mobility on those parts. Well, tell me down in the comments. What do you think? Is my idea intriguing to you? Is my idea just, you know, not necessary? Is it irrelevant? What do you think? Tell me down in the comments again. Alright then. I'm gonna be letting you go, guys. Like and subscribe. See you guys all later. And yeah, have a good one.